going? It's the Fuzz, and I'm back with a follow-up video. We discussed the top 10 best / most powerful cards. Well, now we get to the fun stuff. The top 10 worst cards released in this expansion, along with a few honorable mentions. So, we're gonna start off with the honorable mentions. There's only 5 of them this time. I wanted to do more. I probably could have easily had 10 or more. So if there's a card you think deserves to be on the list and isn't, it's probably like, you know, between numbers 6 and 10 of the honorable mentions, which I would have included if I would have extended the list, but I chose 5, so whatever. Anyways, moving on, our honorable mention, number 5, Assassin's Guild, one of the 3 new skill shrines that are on this list. Not a good sign. Now, this card is actually not that bad, if you think about it. The reason it's on the list is because it's in Dominion, and Dominion has way more removal and way better removal that they would never even consider running this card. But if this card was in another aspect, say Order, maybe Nature, like, it would do something, right? It would do something, because it's removal. It's not great removal, but it's removal, and those aspects maybe would have the option to use it. But as it is, you have to use Dominion, and I mean, if you're splashing Dominion, you're not running this card. You're running Assassinate, Devious, Soul Flames, Prinha, and all that other stuff. So that's why I had to include it, because it's in such a position where we'll never see any play. Honorable mention number 4, the Pegasus. So Pegasus makes it on the list because it's just a 1-mana 1/1 flyer, and that's it. It has no synergy of any kind. It's like a Nightbringer that's not a demon, that doesn't mill. It's not a soldier, it's not a knight, it just does nothing. It's just a 1/1 flyer. It feels like a filler card, but this makes it on the list and not something like an Enchained Soul, because an Enchained Soul is a token you summon from something, which is why they added it as a card in the game. Nothing summons the Pegasus. So, why is it even here? What is this card doing? I think what this card needs is just some effect. I don't know, give it Lifebound or something. Let it, I don't know, do something when it dies, like give a Might Emblem or something. Actually, this card is on the list of the Great Rebalance Project, as are all of these cards, actually. Well, not Assassin's Guild, but yeah. And my idea was to let it give a Might Emblem when it dies, but just giving it Lifelink even, Lifebound, it would make it different. It would make it stand out from the other cards. Right now, okay, it's flying, I guess. Nah, it's not gonna see play because you have a 1-drop that does something better in every case. Moving on to honorable mention number 3, the Infused Subordinate. So this is the Dominion Subordinate. Every aspect got one, and this card is really bad because the starting stat line is kind of bad. It's like a Library Guards without the extra health. Yes, it can draw you a card, but you have to destroy a creature and pay 1 mana and be running Dominion. It's a lot of hoops to jump through for what's basically a worse Library Guards. There's really, I mean, first of all, because Library Guards exist, this card is absolute trash. But even if Library Guards didn't exist, you would not run this card. It's just too weak. Now, my fix for this one was make it, instead of +1/+1, give it a Might Emblem when you cast a spell. Then it'd be interesting. You cast a spell, then it's a 3/3. Then you cast another one, then it's a 4/4. It might not necessarily even be good, but it would do something. It would be different somehow, right? It would be an interesting card. I think it would be something. Maybe, I mean, if you also give it flying in addition to that, that might be too good. But just give it a Might Emblem instead, because as it is, you have to play a spell to, you know, for it to kill something and not die. You know, you gotta play a spell to make it a 3/3, and then it has to, you have to have Dominion, and you have to pay 1 mana, and all of this just to draw a card. Just play Library Guards instead. Anyways, honorable mention number 2, Insignia of the Sun. Very cool idea in theory, where it's basically a way to give soldiers and knights, I guess, card advantage. But it just doesn't work out. It's a lot of mana to play, and then when you use the energy, you only have maybe a 50-50 chance to actually get a card, and then maybe you'll get more energy if you attack with like 3 creatures. Yeah, it's just too much mana. I don't remember exactly what my suggestion was for this one. It's probably just make it cost 2 mana and make it look like top 3 cards or something, just so that it actually does something. It's a cool idea. I like the concept, but it starts off too far behind for you to even bother playing a card like this. And the number 1 honorable mention, which some of you are probably going to wonder, well, why isn't this card like in the top 10? It's like absolute trash. Well, there's worse. The totem of doing nothing, I guess. So when we saw this totem, we thought, yes, a legendary rage totem. Shamans are a real thing. And then we read the effect, and we were not very impressed. The idea, I guess, is to give you an extra creature to attack with, but the problem is it has 1 speed, so it cannot attack anything, it cannot control the board. So it's doing something shamans don't need doing, and that's why it's bad. And my simple fix for this, just give it 2 speed. If it has 2 speed, it can actually control the board somewhat. Maybe even 3 energy? I don't know, but at the very least, give it 2 speed. Here, 1 speed creatures are not very good in this game, unless they are, I don't know, Ancient Trance or something. But even Ancient Trance isn't seeing play. Anyways, we move on to the top 10 worst cards in the expansion, and oh man, these cards are something else. So the first one, number 10, is kind of a 3 of a kind Cannonade, along with Earthquake, along with Snowstorm. So all 3 of these cards I'm placing kind of into the one category because they're basically the same card. It's a terrible board clear. And the reason they're so terrible is because they are letting your opponent decide what gets killed. What uses a removal spell that doesn't let you decide what you remove? I guess the idea is that, you know, you play it and then they have to distribute the damage on all their stuff. But that, it really doesn't work. Of the 3, I'd say Snowstorm is the worst of the bunch. So I'm going to use it as the poster child. Because for Snowstorm to do a lot of damage, your opponent has to have a lot of creatures. But if they have a lot of creatures, then they can distribute the damage better. And I've experimented with this card, and I was shocked at how terrible it is, because you cast it against a board of 7 creatures, and like 1 thing dies and 1 thing gets frozen. That's really underwhelming. Okay, that's not a bad effect, but the problem is, no matter what the situation is, this card is bad. If it's a small board, it'll just freeze 1 creature. If it's a big board, it won't do enough. So, unless you play like 3 of these in a row, it's not gonna happen. The other cards are also bad. Cannonade is just distribute 4, but your opponent gets to decide, so it's a bad arrow barrage in an aspect that has Fire Blast, so no hope of getting played. Earthquake is the least bad of the 3 because it's a little bit cheaper and it potentially will do more damage, and because it doesn't hit flyers, so you can kind of control what it hits, but it hits your side of the board. So you have to be running flyers, I guess, but other than the fairies, which aren't even that good, what are you running? You know, the best nature cards are like elves, which are all ground creatures, so all 3 of these are absolutely useless cards. And the simple solution to all 3, let us distribute the damage. Why is my opponent distributing the damage for me? This is ridiculous. Alright, I'm not trying to be negative, I'm just... It would not have taken a lot of testing to figure out that this is really bad, especially Snowstorm. I played 3 games against the AI, and every single game I was more and more shocked at how useless the card was. And after the 3rd, I just thought, you know, this card is no chance. And this is only number 10! Oh yeah, it's getting there. Number 9, worst card of the expansion. The Black Market. It looks really, really, really cool, but it's really, really, really trash. And here's why. Your opponent's going to look at top 5 cards. If he hits a 4-cost card, you will have drawn 1 card for 4 mana, which is absolute trash. If he doesn't hit a 4-coster, you'll draw probably 2 cards of your opponent's choosing, which is not horrible, but it's a 2 mana more expensive Ancient Wisdom. Why aren't you just running Ancient Wisdom? So that's pretty bad, actually. If 4 mana, draw 2 is really bad. Really, really bad. The only way to actually draw more cards is if your entire deck is like nothing but 1s and 2s, and you hit less than 4 mana in 2 cards, so he has to give you 3 cards. The dream, of course, is to hit like a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and 3 shrines. Then you get 5 cards. That happens like never, basically. So yeah, no, the card is absolutely worthless, and it's in an aspect that has Burning Rage. Just use Burning Rage. I mean, I'm not actually advocating that you play Burning Rage, but if you want card draw in Rage, or just Goblin Looter or something, anything but this card is absolutely worthless. Number 8, worst card in the expansion, the Ritual of Gardens, a card that looks really cool until you actually think about it. So let's see. You exhaust any number of fairies, and then you basically get to treat them as mana, disregarding aspect costs. Okay, and then the card replaces itself. The problem is this card itself costs 2 mana. So if you try to use, you play for 2 mana, you tap 2 fairies, and you get a 2-cost creature. You've done basically nothing except tap 2 of your fairies. So that's useless. And you had to have this in your hand. If you do it on a 3-coster, it's a little bit better, but you have to have 3 fairies and exhaust them all. The only use of this card is to get Elgoron on the board, where you tap 4 fairies and you get 4, you get Elgoron, maybe on turn like 5 or something, a lot earlier than you should. Seems good. You have to have 4 fairies on the board. And this card. It's it's not gonna happen. Like, this card would have to cost like 0 mana or something, or maybe at 1 mana. Honestly, no, because fairies are bad for the most part. You're never gonna make a deck full of fairies, and you'd have to be running a fairy deck, which is a bad deck, to make use of a bad card to maybe one time get a good effect. No, it's not gonna happen. But the reason it gets higher on the list is because it's trying to make you make it work. But no, it's not gonna work. Number 7, worst card of the expansion, Shock. It's a shocking card. It's shocking in how little it actually does. It's almost 2 mana draw card. That's it. I mean, the effect isn't literally nothing. It's just, it does so little. It feels like a filler card. But this is actually my favorite card for the Great Rebalance project, because what I want is to scrap this useless card and replace it. I mean, you can keep the art or whatever, and just make it transform a creature into a drone or something, or a golem. I don't know, whatever. So it acts as hard removal for wisdom. Oh my god, what a great idea. It's an opportunity to give wisdom hard removal, and I think it has to happen, because we cannot have a game where all the good removal is in one aspect. These aspects can no longer be left without basic necessities. Removal is a fundamental thing that every aspect has to have access to, and right now the only thing wisdom has is flash freeze. That's at best conditional removal. Now, flash freeze is not a bad card, but how about we give them another card? Dominion has like 7 cards that remove other things, if not more. Why does wisdom have so few? So yeah, great opportunity with this card. The shock card is just, it doesn't do anything. Maybe when you have 6 mana and you stop a creature from attacking you, it'll do a little bit. Because it draws the card, it's not higher on the list, unlike some other cards. But yeah, no, it's just a nothing card. Number 6, worst card of the expansion, Curse of Risha. Basically, it's on the list for the same reason as Shock. It's a redraw that does very little. It's actually worse than Shock because it has no immediate impact at all. At least Shock, like, absorbs some damage, technically, or it saves the creature. This will do, what, 3 damage over the course of the entire game? Maybe 4? That's it? What are you doing with your life playing this card? It's terrible. Number 5, worst card in the expansion. The secret card that Bolter didn't get. Wall of Flames. Yeah, what a badass card. Wait a minute. So, if I play this, on my turn, enemy creatures will take 1 more damage. So it's like a massive assault, but for only for 1 turn, and my creatures take damage too. Why don't I just run massive assault? Oh wait, maybe it's supposed to stop the enemy from attacking me. Well, I know a card like that, Angelic Song. You know, stops the enemy from attacking my creatures completely, and it even draws a card. And it sees no play. So this is a strictly worse version of a card that sees no play. It's truly terrible. Number 4, worst card. The card itself is Shooting Sprout, but we're gonna bring up Sprouting Totem because it's what summons them. Shooting Sprout is a 1 mana 0/1 with 1 speed. Literally the worst possible stats. It does nothing. I repeat, nothing on the board. It has a cool effect, but so what? You're gonna play Ambush Strike on it? It's a 4/5 for 1 turn, and then it goes back to being a 0/1. Are you actually gonna put this on the board? No, you are not. You are not. And Sprouting Totem, by extension, is really bad because it summons useless creatures. Yes, there's maybe some dream where you play this, like a bunch of Sprouting Totems, summon a bunch of Shooting Sprouts, and then play Totem of the Moon and give them a big buff. Yeah, it's never gonna happen. Sorry. Shooting Sprout, might as well read discard a card. That's basically what it is. Number 3. Worst card in the set. Ancient Ruins. Oh my god. It's just like the Dominion one, it's in the worst possible aspect it could be. If it wasn't in Wisdom, it would still be on the list, but probably a lot lower. But because it's in Wisdom, so think about this. Whenever you play a skill shrine, you are basically losing a card because a basic shrine would draw you a card. So you are investing a card to activate it. What is the effect of this card? Well, you draw a card for 2 mana. But you have to play a level 1 creature and have 2 mana left over. And if you do that, you have redrawn for 2 mana. So why not just play a basic shrine? So in order for you to start getting value, you have to then wait 2 more turns and spend 2 more mana and play a level 1 creature to finally draw a card. At best, you'll play a 1-drop and then pay 2 mana, so you'll have basically paid 3 mana to draw a card. Huh. Can someone explain to me why I don't just play basic Darius? I mean, I'm giving up a hero power slot anyways. Why don't I just use a basic hero? If a skill shrine is not better than a basic hero, that's bad, because again, you are paying a card, and any future Ancient Ruins you draw are basically automatically lost cards. It's bad. It's really, really bad. Number 2, worst card of the expansion, Fire God Temple. So you know how Ancient Ruins was laughably terrible? Well, this is basically the same thing, but somehow even worse. So you are giving up a card to do nothing, because you put a target emblem on something, which does nothing. Then next turn, you pay 2 more mana, and then you have to play a level 1 creature, and then you finally get to do 2 damage to the thing that you marked, assuming it isn't dead already. So, are you playing this with other target emblem stuff? All that stuff is mediocre at best. Even if you actually manage to mark something. Okay, so the dream with this card is to play the 3-drop. Where is he? Alright, Flame Rune Warrior. He enters the field, puts a target emblem or something, then you pay the 2 mana and you deal 2 damage to it. For 5 mana total. Well done! Except this card is pretty bad, and so is the other target emblem stuff. So, In order for this card to be at least decent, you have to play it in a really bad deck. If you play it in any other deck, it's basically 4 mana and a card. No, it's okay, so it's 4 mana to do 2 damage on your second turn. It has a cooldown of 1, yes, but you have to keep paying 2 mana. And you have to play level 1 creatures. And have 2 mana left over afterwards. If you can somehow actually kill a creature with this card, you probably deserve to win the game, because whatever combo wombo you did to pull that off probably should be game winning, honestly. I'm not even sure that you could play this at, maybe if this costs 0 mana, it would be like playable, I guess. Yeah, I guess it would be okay, because you just, you play a 1-drop, mark something, and then later kill it. It's still not good, but at least maybe it's something. But no, you have to pay 2 mana for it. Oh my goodness. In a word, no. And the number 1 worst card, in my opinion, of this expansion, which you must have guessed by now, because it's the only awful card I have not named yet, Soul Projection. You know how just a moment ago I was absolutely trashing these distribute cards, like those board clears that don't do anything? Welcome to a board clear, similar to Snowstorm, let's say, that basically reads, discard a card and destroy a friendly creature. So, in order for this to have a similar effect as, let's say, Arrow Barrage. Okay, let's just compare to Arrow Barrage, right? Arrow Barrage is a 3-drop. This is a 3-drop. Arrow Barrage does 4 damage to one of the rows. For this to have a similar effect, you have to sack a 4-attack creature. You're not going to have one by turn 3, by the way. And then you get to play Arrow Barrage, except your opponent gets to choose the distribution completely. So you can't play it on turn 3 unless you sack a 1-drop or something, which will do 1 damage. Oh, hooray. So let's say you sack an Antriel late game. Oh yeah, you sacrifice an Antriel, you play this card, and you distribute 6 damage, and maybe you'll kill something. So at best case scenario, you'll 2-for-1 yourself and lose a valuable card. Worst case scenario, again, this card reads, discard a card and destroy a friendly creature. This card is trash tier. No, this is below trash tier. This is like absolute joke tier. How could you even conceive of such a card? How could you actually play this card and think, yeah, that was worth it. Yeah, destroying my own creature to maybe kill an enemy creature that I don't even choose is totally worth it. The reason this card is number 1 is because whereas the other cards just kind of do nothing, this card literally generates negative value. You lose value when you play it. You lose a card, this card, and the creature, and maybe you'll kill 1 card. Sometimes you'll kill nothing. Oh, yay! That's exactly the kind of card I wanted. Oh my god. I know during the podcast, Peacekeeper was just, he was super pissed off with this card, and I actually forgot what it did, because when I looked over it initially, I just ignored it because it looked so bad. And then I read over it again, and I thought, yeah, wow, that's really, really bad. Actually, calling it really, really bad would be too kind, I think. So how do you fix this card? Very simple. Make it deal the X damage to all enemy creatures. So you sack a big creature like Antriel, and it clears their board. You might think that's unfair. Cataclysm, my friends. It's basically still a worse Cataclysm because you have to give up a creature. Well, you have to have a big creature and then sack it, and then you clear their board. I guess if it did that, probably should cost more mana, but at least it would be interesting. It would do something. It would be another board clear in the game for order. You know, stuff we don't have. Board clears, guys. We need that stuff. So this card, along with Earthquake, Cannonade, and Snowstorm. Oh yeah, Corruption didn't get anything. I mean, I'm sure you could like rework Curse of Risha or something like that. So those cards are attempts at a board clear that unfortunately failed. I mean, In the case of the other three, it's the distribution mechanic not working out very well. But in this case, even if you could distribute the damage, this card is still bad. Like, it's not like absolute worthless trash tier, but it's still bad because you have to give up a big creature to kill a big creature. It's like Devious Plot, except way worse, and it costs more mana. No. Please no. So that's it for my list of top 10 worst cards, along with a few honorable mentions. I hope you enjoyed. If there's cards I didn't mention, I'm sure they were gonna be in the, other honorable mentions. For example, Eternal Servitude and Spoils of War, which I think are bad cards, but they are not so bad. Eternal Servitude is just kind of not necessary, and Spoils of War, it just is a little bit too difficult to pull off. But they don't compare to the horribleness of the cards we just described. I will see you next time. Stay awesome.